Hello there. Welcome to the next episode of Just Gina, in which I shall be talking about one of my 7 core virtues. If you're a long time watcher, you will have heard them a few times, and I even did an episode early on in which I went over all of the 7 and gave them a quick summary. But I've decided that especially in this season of life for me, it would be beneficial to you and even more beneficial to me to break down each of those 7, apply it to my life, but more so apply it to life in general. And the very first one I've decided to do is my favorite of the 7. However, this is a topic that cannot be talked about in only one episode, so I might do more episodes on wisdom specifically. Wisdom is always something I've experienced, had access to, used, grew, planted, harvested my whole life in different ways in different seasons using different scenarios. And in this season of my life, where I am literally rebuilding the framework of a successful life from the ground up in my recovery from burnout, I need wisdom especially more so. um, and this might sound really weird and silly to you if you are indeed new to the concept. You might not be new to wisdom itself, you might be a very wise person, but you might be new to calling it something that's not yourself. And wisdom is powerful, so powerful that ancient texts written by people long ago, several of them have called wisdom a female, a she, like as if she's her own entity and being. And indeed, wisdom does seem like very alive and kicking like that, especially since I've been meditating lately a lot, and I've been really thinking about what are the nuts and bolts of success? What are the inner workings of well being, of wholeness, identity? And I'll just say it right now, if you are in the transgender community or even LGBTQ, or any other minority community, such as mental differences, you have already brushed up on wisdom itself by exploring your deeper, greater, truer meaning, putting it into words, and gaining the confidence and know how to share it with others. And when you share it with others, you realize that each circumstance is very different, and you have to be flexible and adaptable. So, this is going to be a very abstract episode. However, you'll be able to feel deep inside what I am saying, because you can't put wisdom in words. It's ever growing, ever changing. Most of the movies, television shows, even games out there drew from the well, the pool, the depths, the oceans of wisdom. And so far, as humans, we have not found the end. Just like we haven't found the end of our own ocean in the Mariana Trench by Japan. We haven't explored the depths of our own planet. Likewise, we haven't explored the depths of wisdom, which is, ta-da, linked directly to creativity and imagination. And I would say right now, wisdom is the expression of those things. I just had a thought and it kind of like fluttered away. You kind of need creativity in your own life. You need imagination to solve everyday problems, and that's where wisdom comes in. And by now you should notice, or you can notice right now, that there's no single word or few words to describe it. So I wrote down here a few words that I use to describe wisdom, and this is just the beginning. This is 5 minutes of thinking and meditating. I could have more and more and more and more words. But I want to see if you get this. So open your mind, open your heart, and like what comes to mind when I say these words? And I realized I didn't write that many, but there are so many more. Okay. Wisdom is sensitivity, delicacy, or being delicate. Cunning and shrewd in the conquest for wholeness. I'll pause right there and say, cunning and shrewd, when you think of those words, you think of an evil genius or a supervillain. That's what I always thought of, but in Googling those words, indeed it just means someone who has sharp wit, smart, um, makes things work on the fly. Okay, next word. I love this word. Malleable. Malleable. Just think of that word, think of clay. And you have the clay, and it's spinning, and you kind of like, I don't know, my wife can tell me more. I don't know anything about pottery making, but imagine the clay spins, and you just sort of manipulate it, and it's malleable. Clay is malleable. It could take on the shape and form of what its master wants it to. Now, our master is our discretion, our judgment, and understanding, and knowing how to apply those into life. And that, ta-da, is also a core of wisdom. Believe it or not, wisdom is not necessarily linked to intellect. However, intellect does draw upon some of wisdom's strengths. But being in Mensa or having a high IQ doesn't mean you're wise. Just Google the story of the smartest man in the world. I believe his name is Richard or Rick. I think Richard. Branson is? That's what came to my mind. Maybe Richard Branson. Anyway, read his summary. I'm just gonna say I'm not meaning to offend him or any of his friends, but he is not wise because based on his life story, he has jumped from thing to thing to thing to thing and is not satisfied. But the problem is he's looking at external things such as working out and health and supplements, and he's trying to find out immortality, if it works or not, or if it's a thing you could invent. We all die and no one has defied the laws of death, so I won't call him that wise, of course. He may be, just not showing it. However, intelligence is indeed an attribute of wisdom, but it's knowing how to apply it. True intelligence and intellect quotient can't be measured because it happens on the fly in response to very new, novel, unexpected circumstances and scenarios. Such as, in my case, suddenly losing all of my discipline, gratitude, delaying, or I think it's called delaying gratitude. Not gratitude, sorry. Gratitude. That's another one of my 7 core virtues is gratitude, and it will have its own episode very soon. Delayed gratification. Gratification. Delaying gratification is a huge component of wisdom. I guess I have to admit I'm about to humble brag a little bit, but when I was a child, some of the peer advisors, or not peer advisors, oh man, I'm having a hard time with the words today. That is not wise. Some of the people in charge at an educational program I was doing when I was a teenager performed their equivalent of the marshmallow test. So if you Google delay gratification marshmallow test, you will read about it. Basically, are you willing to delay gratification to enjoy the rewards much later, except in greater quantity? Well, they did that, except there was no greater quantity. It was, do you want this now, or do you want this later? And I was the only person in the group of about 40 who raised their hands saying, I want it later. And I've always patted myself on the back for that. I wasn't trying to be wise or cunning or shrewd. I knew that if I put the reward further off, I will have more time to enjoy the anticipation. I'm shocked that I got that concept early on without any training or knowing what I was doing. That is definitely wisdom, but it's not just, do I want my thing now or later? It's being able to sculpt delayed gratification in your life to discipline yourself. And I, indeed, am doing that in my quest to restore my life to healthy foundations and healthy schedules and routines and patterns. So as I preach wisdom, I am also its lowliest pupil and student. Therefore, I admit that you, the viewer, could be wiser than I, and I am very happy. That's another thing I'm making up on the spot, but it's very true. Wisdom is indeed not holding your own ego over the ability to take wisdom from situations. It's pushing aside ego in order to admit that, hey, this people or this book or this whatever is probably wiser than me, so I will lower myself to receive it. Because if you put yourself at a higher level than what you're receiving, you will be hardened and stiff to receive, and it just won't be possible. So that's why the next word for wisdom is humility. Admitting that you don't know all there is to know. And admitting you don't know if someone speaking and giving advice or opinion or information and knowledge or even wisdom to you, you don't know if they're really qualified or not. So it is literally humbling yourself, saying, you know what, for this moment I will receive. And then you cross-reference what they say with your own experiences and knowledge, and you make a wise choice, whether to listen or push aside. So think of like wisdom as a book of very wise sayings. Wise sayings that basically bring success to anyone who follows them. They are not situation specific, they are general truths. I call them universal truths. And I still have the journal where I filled an entire journal with just observations I made about life and how to approach life. This was when I was 21 years old. And since then, I have not gathered more, but instead I have used what I wrote in life. That's another key takeaway. If you do indeed have wisdom in your heart, you will find wisdom everywhere you go. It's like going to an antique store or a garage sale and knowing what is valuable and what is not, and looking in the least expected places for items of great value or significance or meaning. That's wisdom. It's finding life lessons everywhere you go, no matter what. Again, that requires you humble yourself and say, I need growth. Seriously, I need growth. I was watching a doctor show the other day, The Good Doctor, by the way, and these doctors always admit that they don't know all there is to know about a certain procedure or how to fix a certain problem. Surgeons and doctors are always learning because there's always new information out there. So it's not necessarily drawing upon a starchy library of dusty books and learning rote repetition, but instead pulling information from everywhere to benefit you, and in their case, the patient. I'm rewinding to the word malleable, and it has two partner words, which is malleable, flexible, adaptable. They all kind of mean the same thing, but you could apply them differently. So malleable is being sculpted by the wisdom around you and in your day-to-day life. Flexible is like giving way to something other than you. In fact, I just went over that. It's humbling yourself. So being flexible, allowing yourself to be like water, as Bruce Lee said. By the way, Bruce Lee is in my opinion, one of the wisest men who ever lived. And he used his wisdom in life, and he used it mostly in martial arts. But Google Bruce Lee wisdom or Bruce Lee poetry or philosophy, and you will learn so much from him. Seriously, it made my stomach have those butterflies when I read it the first time. Bruce Lee says, Be flexible, malleable, adaptable like water, because water can take any shape and form of whatever the scenario it's in. So, whatever vessel it's poured into, it takes that shape. No resistance. Unless, of course, it's frozen. But at the same time, water, if concentrated and used in a like a focused manner, can be very deadly. Look, have you seen those steel cutting machines that use water to cut steel? Mm-hmm. But that's the same kind of water that will fill a weird oriental ceramic ornament. Whatever. Humility and willing to make self-sacrifices. I'm going to add, because that's the end of my list, I'm going to add graceful. And this one I'll leave to your interpretation. What is graceful and how can you incorporate it into your life? In fact, by doing that, you will be using wisdom to compare grace with you, your circumstances, your potential circumstances, future, and other things. Grace, style, and beauty. And those aren't just feminine qualities. You could have grace, style, and beauty as a man. In fact, I just remembered that I do indeed have a list. Several other qualities that I have noticed. I made this a while back, and now I'm just using my wisdom to realize, oh, that's right, it's already there. Okay. Concise, brevity, sharp. These are taking a lot of information. So I'm victim of betraying this one. Taking a lot of information, condensing it down to its core components, and delivering it in a digestible way. Holy crap. So in the surgeon example, it's like them explaining to someone going to junior college what surgery is about. They're taking all of their knowledge and examples and practices and experiences and opinions and study and observation, and they're compressing it down into a digestible format for someone who is just getting started. That is being sharp and concise, to the point, brevity. I betray that one because, well, if you're my friend watching, you know some of my wall of text emails and text messages. I'm still working on this. And even in these episodes, I could probably shrink them a bit if I made better bullet points. But I'm still learning that one. So humble, humility, as I mentioned earlier, that also goes along with being generous and helpful to other people. Because there is so much, like, there's no science to back this up. There's so much wisdom to be found by helping someone else, by sacrificing your time, energy, and helping train, equip someone else. Spiritual. Okay, spiritual. OMG. Ah, where do I begin? Spirituality draws upon wisdom greatly. Spirituality is a personal belief system, not bound by any pre-existing text or whatever. It's a personal belief system that draws upon what you observe, but mostly what you feel deep inside is true. And then applying it to your life. But at the same time, building upon it. Okay. I had never thought. I'm trying to get it back. Alright, trying to find another thing on my list. I couldn't think of my other thought. Oh, Jaina. Well, that kind of derailed, but that's okay because I already gave you so much of the the insight that I have. And you know what? I'm gonna screw it. I might do another episode and include all my other notes in it, but shh, this entire thing is filled with lots of observations and notes and poems and spirituality things, so I'm not gonna try to fish for any wisdom in there. As for me, if you know me personally, there might be two people watching this who know me personally. Actually, several more, I think. Okay. I do not appear wise at all. I'm struggling. I'm floundering. Floundering. I'm flailing, floundering, struggling um, to get back into order, into a structured system that is firm yet malleable, routines, patterns. And I will admit right now, I had quit smoking nicotine or vaping e-cigs. I switched to e-cigs 10 years ago and I never turned back. But then a few months ago, in my efforts to be wiser and healthier, I quit cold turkey. Well, lately I've been not sneaking, I've been having a cigarette here and there. Uh, that's not wise. And so I'm struggling with myself to kick that because it's only going to get worse and more abundant. And I hate the smell of smoke. Though that's an in person, real life example of how I'm struggling with wisdom. But also my schedules. I used to be at my computer working, like as of 2 years ago, I used to be at my computer working before or at 9 a.m. But now I can't even be up and about until around 11 because my morning ritual is very unorganized and not wise. So I am also using wisdom to create my own laws and my own discipline and my own sharp judgment to decide, is this meandering about in the morning worth it? Or will that satisfaction of cutting the crap and stop playing Nintendo Switch at 8:30 a.m. if cutting that crap and actually being productive would give me more overall life satisfaction? And I think I just hit the primary point. The answer is yes. If you ask yourself, would making this decision or putting into play this set of laws, rules, expectations, standards, would that make me overall, in the end, short or long term, would that make me a wise person? The answer is usually some form of yes. If you're actually asking, will this help me? There's probably something in there that will help you. Now, when I say strict routine, strict schedules, and strict judgment, I'm not talking about really disciplining yourself with a rod. I'm saying be malleable yet firm. Because wisdom is indeed a divine paradox. It could be both A and B simultaneously, or some combination thereof. It doesn't always have to be one way or another. Another area in my personal life I struggle with is balance. There was never really, back when I drank alcohol, there was never really social casual drinking. It existed for maybe 1 year at most. Then it went straight into full blown alcoholism, and I kept that going. It was like high functioning alcoholism, whatever, if that's even a thing. I kept that going for many years, and then full blown alcoholism even more. Like, I didn't use wisdom to say, hey, I notice this is a threat to me. I want to back off of it. So here's a few things I'm going to put into practice, be malleable yet firm, to make my life better. I didn't do that. And believe it or not, I actually tried several times, and I was victorious for a few days. But, you do not fuck with alcohol at all. Or any opiates, benzos, whatnot. Just don't mess with those. Don't think it could be only a casual thing. It's not. So I didn't use wisdom there. And here I am going to try to use wisdom to quit smoking those cigarettes once in a while. So yeah, I'm still learning. I am wisdom's greatest pupil. And you should effort to be the same way. Say, I am wisdom's greatest student. I will effort to use wisdom more and more and more and most in my life. And I will let others see for themselves, without me giving words, the wisdom coming to fruition and being harvested through my actions and lifestyles. Even the aura, vibe, chi that I exude. Let all of that be a byproduct of wisdom. You will be surprised. You will be super surprised as you put these things into practice, even if it's very starchy at first, because you're like trying to get used to it. So you very stiff, like dancers. They begin really stiff and then they become graceful, beautiful, elegant. Yes. Whimsical. That's what I call myself. Whimsical. Yes. That's wisdom taking form, shaping you. And you will begin to spread it into other areas of your life. So you might start wisdom at school or at your job first, but you will use what you learned to grow new things over here. It's like a contagious seed, like one of those flowers or fruits or shrubberies that begin singular, but it's in their very nature to spread their existence. Dandelions, that's a good example. Be like a dandelion. Just have one to start out with, but watch it take shape in your life and change the world. So, I'm ending this here. I am wisdom's greatest student. I have a lot of problems, and I try to be open and honest about all of them, especially that smoking thing. I haven't even told people about that yet because it's a very new thing. So I still have a lot of momentum to quit that while it's still taking shape. And I'm being open to you, not because I want to, because that's a very shameful thing for me to admit, but maybe you can use that as an example in your own life. Maybe you see certain patterns or rituals or habits taking shape in their very early stages, and you might have a fearful, stabby thought. That might be bad. No, it's not. Well, if you said that might be bad, it probably a little bit is, or a lot of it is. You see where I'm going with this? It's adapting, taking shape. Put wisdom into your own words. Start a book. Like seriously, a small journal. Like this is a cool one I got from like one of those monthly subscription boxes. I got this, and it's I love the quality and the texture, and I got so frustrated in my writing 3 times so far. I threw this across the room because I fuck wisdom. Anyway, yes, over the next year, I'm going to declare this. Over the next year, you're going to see me just grow and improve in my discipline in life. I'm saying this to keep myself accountable because I've declared it publicly. Now I am tasked to keep it going and grow it. Life gave me really sour apples when I burnt out. And to be honest, I look back in my past and think, how was I so disciplined? How did I express so much wisdom? And I have to learn that over again. So just know I don't preach things that I don't practice. And that's what Just Jana is all about. I am open, vulnerable, and I admit my shortcomings. I admit how I can be better to make you better too through my experiences and my storytelling. Alright, have a wonderful, groovy day, and I will talk to you soon. If I can find the off button. There we go.